All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another podcast on MMA.Unhinged. Today we are joined once again by Oscar, my co-host over there in America. How's it going?
It's going excellent. It's the holiday season, and there's no better time of year. And honestly, I'm just very grateful for the great year the UFC gave us. They had their highest total pay per view buys ever, and they closed the year off in style, both in pay per view and with their fight night event. And we're going to review those two events. I know we did not have a podcast last week, we had some prior commitments, but we're going to have some fun this episode because we had two fantastic cards full of finishes, full of upsets. And yeah, we'll dive right into it. The main event
Yeah,
of UFC 269 was Charles Oliveira versus Dustin Poirier. Charles Oliveira was the underdog heading into the fight, and we saw the upset there. Charles Oliveira got a third round submission on Dustin Poirier, and he did it very impressively. A lot of people, including myself, thought Dustin Poirier would find that knockout eventually. And Dustin Poirier was definitely ahead on the stand in the first round. In fact, he did score a knockdown, had Charles Oliveira hurt, but Charles Oliveira is kind of rewriting his reputation in a way with the fans because now he's bouncing back from beatings and getting these finishes against high level competition. So Charles Oliveira, in my book, is definitely the rightful champion now. I was a little iffy heading into this one because the only reason the Oliveira versus Chandler fight was made was because Dustin Poirier said no. So I was a little iffy. I was thinking Dustin was the uncrowned champ. No. Now we have Oliveira as the rightful champion. He really proved himself. And man, this guy, I'm not going to question his heart in the same way ever again after this, honestly, because Dustin really challenged him early. But the thing with Charles, man, he has such a dangerous ground game. So dangerous that in the second round, when Charles was able to get on top, Dustin Poirier decided to sit on his back and just get that body triangle because Dustin refused to give up his back. He would take all the elbows, all the punishment from Charles just to not get his back taken. That shows you how much it was in Dustin's head that Charles could snatch up a submission at any time. And in that next round, he did it anyway. That's just how good Charles Oliveira is. How impressed are you by Charles in his first title defense?
well, as you were saying there, in the past, Oliveira has been a guy that being able to take shots and not being able to recover and, getting finished. We saw him against Paul Felder, virtually quitting after taking them elbows. And now we're looking at a guy in Charles Oliveira who's taking shots and coming back and winning the fight. Is crazy. As we've seen here, once again, he got dropped, came back and won the fight. This guy he's a changed man. It's incredible. Once upon a time, he took shots and couldn't get back into the fight, and now he's taking shots and winning belts, defending his belts. He beat Chandler, now beat Dustin Poirier, one of the best boxers inside that lightweight division, and he's holding his own as well in the stand up. He was looking good, and as you mentioned, Ned, Dustin Poirier held him just on that body triangle for 2 minutes, so almost a full round, because he knows how dangerous Charles Oliveira is. But that also shows, the maturity of Dustin Poirier from where he came from in that loss to Khabib Nurmagomedov. He said that he tried to get out of the position, therefore he lost the fight. So this time around, he said, I want to. If I'm in a bad position, I'm just going to see it out, lose the round instead of losing the fight. And that's what we saw with Dustin Poirier. He decided to lose the round and try and potentially win the fight in the later rounds, but Charles Oliveira, man, he is the true champion, as you mentioned. You thought Dustin Poirier was the uncrowned champion. I thought it too. And Charles Oliveira, man, this guy's incredible. We can never, ever doubt him again.
Yeah, Charles Oliveira has a thrilling matchup in his future, most likely in May in Brazil, apparently, against Justin Gaethje. And I believe that fight is going to be absolute fireworks. I guarantee we will not see a third round in that fight. That fight is so exciting on paper, honestly, and I'm so split on the pick, honestly, because we've seen that Justin Gaethje's submission defense is not the best, but also we've seen that Oliveira's chin is not necessarily the best either. And Gaethje, as
Yes, I'll
Habib
try.
said, he's taken some punches from hard hitters in his day, and he said Gaethje is the hardest hitter of them all. So that's a big compliment from him. And Charles Lee's one of those bonds. Who knows what happens? So that's
But it
such an
recently,
interesting matchup, man.
yeah, it did recently come out that Charles Oliveira said that he would like Conor McGregor actually next, which is
It's of course
he's
he does.
chasing it.
Who,
He's
who,
chasing
who
it.
wouldn't want it? I'm
Yeah,
sure. I'm sure everybody in the division wants that fight because of the payday and the attention that comes with it. But
yeah.
I don't see it happening unless we see some kind of short notice situation. And regardless, I don't think the timelines match up. If you remember, uh, when Conor got injured, the timeline was 12 months, and that's what it should be. Because if not, he may be coming back too quick and compromising peak performance. So I don't think the timelines match up. And yeah, I think Gaethje has more than earned it. My goodness, you want to talk about pain in blood? That's what he did with Michael Chandler. So I think that's the fight to look forward to. And another fight to look forward to is the rematch between Juliana Pena and Amanda Nunez. This was arguably the biggest upset in UFC history, at least in the women's divisions, biggest upset in UFC history. Juliana Pena got the second round submission on Amanda Nunez. We completely wrote out Pena on this podcast. We said, sure, Pena has a very slight chance, but let's be honest here. It's going to be all about how Amanda performs at this weight class after spending a good amount of time at featherweight. And Amanda Nunes in that first round looked pretty good. Looked pretty good. What wasn't super dominant, but she definitely took the first round. Come the second round, we see Amanda Nunes do something that has worked for her in the past. She looks to force the knockout. But the problem is, Juliana Pena has one of the best chins in women's MMA history. She took all of those shots, and Amanda Nunes was not respecting the firepower that was coming back at her. And before she knew it, not only were her arms completely done, she was gassed and she was getting stinged bad by that jab. That jab had Nunes in all kinds of trouble. She was she was rocked bad and gassed, and that left Juliana Pena to do what does best. She got the takedown, and it was very clear to me that Nunez had gotten the fight beaten out of her. Uh, I'm telling you guys, being tired will make anybody a coward. And Juliana Pena easily got that submission on her. I guess we'll call it a rear naked choke, but not the most traditional rear naked choke. And Amanda just quit. She tapped on the mat, and my first reaction was putting my hands on my head and screaming at the TV. How? Because this was, in my opinion, this is just Amanda Nunes having terrible fight IQ. I feel like she still could have won this fight, but she just fought with a terrible mindset, and it's very obvious to me that she did not rate Juliana Pena's heart and durability highly. Otherwise, she wouldn't have forced that knockout. So I believe come the rematch, if Nunez paces herself, if she has the right mindset, I believe she definitely wins her belt back. But if she's not, we know for a fact that Juliana Pena can give her a very tough night.
Well, that's it. You put the nail on the head there. What lost Amanda Nunes her belt this night was the respect. She didn't give Juliana Pena enough respect in this fight. And she thought that she would be able to run through Juliana Pena. And Juliana Pena said it from day dot. I can take the shots and I can come back and I can get her tired. And this is what we saw in this fight. It was phenomenal because I never thought in a different universe that we'd see Amanda Nunes like this as well. In that second round, she was getting beat to the punch, as you mentioned. Juliana Pena was putting her hands on her, and it was affecting Nunez. It was incredible. I don't know what I was witnessing. It was honestly, I could not believe my eyes. And that was the story of the fight. It's just Amanda Nunez just did not respect Juliana Pena. Didn't respect her power. Didn't expect her to be able to take the shots from Amanda Nunez. And as you mentioned, come the second the rematch, I think Nunez will come in a different mindset. She'll come in hungry because now she's the challenger. She's not the champion no more. She's not the double champ. She'll come in hungry, and she's going to go back to the basics. And I believe she's going to time herself to perfection. And she will definitely learn from this fight. But yes, as you mentioned, the fight IQ from Amanda Nunez in this one was horrible.
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly don't know if it was a strength and conditioning issue. I simply think it was a pacing issue. She was fighting at a relentless pace, and she would, in her mind, she was sure that she was going to get that KO. And when it didn't happen, she had nothing left, and it was kind of a moment where her ugly past creeped back up on her. This is not a new thing for Amanda. before she was, the women's MMA GOAT, this would happen to her. She would try to get the finish and just get tired, and she would get broken. Kat Zingano did it. Alexis Davis did it. It's not new for Amanda, and I honestly kind of thought that was, in her past, but it happened here again. So, yeah, after this fight, I truly believe that nobody beats anybody 10 out of 10 times. That's just my take. After this fight, you got to give the underdog respect in pretty much any scenario. So, yeah, this was one of my most shocking moments watching MMA ever. I simply, honestly, I did not believe it until I saw Juliana Pena in the flesh. I actually was at a professional wrestling show at SmackDown, and it was in Chicago. Juliana Pena is Chicago's finest. She was there in the front row with her UFC Bantamweight Championship, and she kept on holding up. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot she's actually the champion. So yeah, that's when I actually came to terms with it, and I really look forward to the rematch, and hopefully it's in Brazil as well, because Amanda has not fought in Brazil in a long time. I'm sure her star power has grown since the last time she fought there. So that would be really fun. And we'll move on.
Not just yet. Not just yet.
Not just yet.
I want to quickly tap on what you were just saying. But I also feel like this is good for Amanda Nunez, because when we were looking at the divisions, the featherweight and the bantamweight, there weren't many two contenders. She was fighting Juliana Pena, who was on a one-fight win streak, which, if that was in any other division, it would rarely happen. Is that she fought Juliana Pena because there was no one else. There was no one else there. And Juliana Pena won this fight. And this is good because it kind of helps the division, catch back up again, new contenders to rise up again. So by the time this time next year, there's going to be 3 or 4 different contenders, I hope.
Yeah, I truly hope. Raquel Pennington, who was on this card, maybe she gets another crack at Amanda. Aspen Ladd is in the mix. Misha Tate, who knows, with a win, she could be there. Kevin Bear. There's a good amount of contenders. I think the best among them is Carol Hossa, but we'll talk about that on some other card. And we'll move on to Jeff Neal's split decision win over Santiago Ponzinibio. This was a pretty good performance from Jeff Neal, bouncing back after 2 losses. And he was fighting a guy in Santiago Ponzinibio who also was looking to continue to rise in this division after his win over Miguel Baez. But it's very clear to me that Santiago is not the fighter that he once was after that long layoff. And Jeff Neal took advantage of it. But I'm very surprised that Jeff Neal didn't get that knockout here. But it was never very clear that he was actually looking for it. But this card was so crazy. We kicked it off. The main card had 2 KOs to kick it off. So I don't feel like this fight got the appreciation it deserved, because it was such a wild card. But yeah, it was a solid fight. Good performance for Jeff Neal. And another thing for people to note, the guy did get pulled over for driving while under the influence, but it didn't mean that automatically his skills were gone. I simply think Jeff Neal was good enough to win this, even if his camp didn't go the smoothest, and that's what he did out there.
Yeah, 100%, I agree with you. Definitely in terms of Santiago Ponzinibio, definitely not the fighter that he used to be before that big break. What was he on, like a 9-8 fight win streak?
Yeah, with a KO over Neil Magny in the 4th round of cap it off.
See, if Neil Magny and Santiago Ponzinibio had a rematch now, I'd probably be favouring towards Neil Magny. It's crazy how this MMA works. That long layoff definitely, it hurt his career, and now he's paying the price for it. You just want to see him get some fights and get more regular, and just maybe have a chance to be able to run to the top again. But the thing is, with that taking a long time, he's getting older. He's 34, 35 years old. So there's not long left for Santiago. But Jeff Neal, as you mentioned, yes, he did get arrested. But as you mentioned, he didn't lose his skills. I did choose against him because I just didn't know where his head was at, and was he fully concentrated on this fight? Because I remember, I think it was after the Thompson fight, his last fight, he said he wanted to take some time off, and then he jumped into this fight. I thought it was a little bit quick for him, but he got the job done. He did what he needed to do, and his leg kicks definitely look very well. Both their leg kicks definitely look good.
Yeah, 100%. We'll move on to a fantastic knockout from Kaikar, France. And this was kind of a sad one because he knocked out Cody Garbrandt. And Cody Garbrandt was on top of the world at the conclusion of 2016. He dominated Dominic Cruz. And since then, it's just not been a great run for him. only one win since 2017, and 4 of his 5 wins have been via knockout. And we're not talking little TKOs. These are fights where he's going out cold. And it's really sad to see, especially from a guy that's just 30. We're in a spot now where we're thinking retirement is an option here because that's the kind of damage that he's absorbing at this point. But we're not going to take anything away from Kai Kara-France. Kai Kara-France showed that you can't just go down as a bantamweight to flyweight and try to bully them around with your bigger frame. That's simply not happening. Kai Kara-France had the quicker hands here, and Cody Garbrandt's entire style is built around having the quicker hands. So when he was outgunned in terms of speed, Kai Kara-France found the mark, and he found it quickly and got a spectacular KO. And now I think he's in a position where he can be one fight away from a title shot and maybe the rematch with Brandon Moreno.
Yeah, 100% agree with you with Kai Kara-France there. Definitely one fight away to getting that title shot. But I think it's him versus Askarov. I think that's the number one title fight.
Askarov actually called him out on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly.
Gave him the
that's a phenomenal fight.
Kai Kara-France says he's not fighting again until he gets a title shot, and Dana laughed that off at the press conference. I don't like Kai Kara-France is some big star or anything like that. So I think that fight makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. Well, going back to this fight, when I heard that Cody Garbrandt was going down to 125 pounds, and originally his debut was meant to be against Davison Figueiredo, I thought, oh man, he's in for a bad night. And seeing what happened in this fight, we never want to see that fight now. We know what would have happened. Davison Figueiredo would have put him out bad, and Kai Kara-France put him out bad in this one too. It was a picture perfect right hand over top as well, and then just him getting the bonus as well. That was so good. But, you got to feel bad for Cody Garbrandt. When he was fighting TJ, he was on top of the world, lost to TJ, and then his performance against Dominic Cruz will go down in history as one of the best title performances I've ever seen. And going from there to here, it's just mad how MMA works.
Yeah, and Dominic Cruz is actually in a better spot than Cody is right now. We'll talk about that later on the card. But if I'm Cody Garbrandt, do I stay at 125? What do you think?
Well, if I'm Cody Garbrandt, and he probably has a better position at 125 pounds to try and maybe go for a title shot. For the weight cut, he looked good. He looked good at 125 pounds, stepping on the weight the scales. But it's just going down in weight is always like he had a bad chin at 145 pounds, and he's gone down, and I just don't see it getting any better for him in any division, to be honest. So he's in a bit of a weird position. If he goes up, I don't think he can win the belt. If he stays there, I just don't think he can win the belt. If I'm Cody Garbrandt, as you mentioned, he's been knocked out quite a few times. I'm probably maybe contemplating hanging up.
Yeah, that's for sure. Really unfortunate situation for Cody. And now we're going to talk about his rival, Sugar Sean O'Malley, passed the Raulian Paiva test with flying colors. Raulian Paiva is a high-level fighter, legitimately a high-level fighter. He has a 20-5 record, and he was fighting Sugar Sean O'Malley, who, let's be honest, not fighting the cream of the crop in his last couple fights. And I was thinking Raulian Paiva would give him somewhat of a tough fight here, because we know for a fact that Raulian Paiva has real grit, and he'll take the big shots and fire them right back. But the problem was Sugar Sean was just way too accurate. And once he stung Raulian Paiva, I had a feeling that it was over, because Sugar Sean, when he smells blood, he starts firing off those combos and starts going for fancy knockouts. And more often than not, he finds the mark and puts you out. And that's what he did Raulian Paiva here. Raulian Paiva was panic wrestling. It just simply didn't work. Could not be more impressed with Sugar Sean O'Malley. And now he can no longer say he's the unranked champ, because now he's ranked at number 13, if I'm not mistaken. So Sugar Sean is going to definitely get a step up in competition after that. How will he fare against that competition? We'll see. But for now, we can definitely say that Sugar Sean is beyond those unranked guys, and he definitely has earned his spot in the top 15.
Yeah, 100%. Enough of the unranked fighting now. I think Sugar Sean O'Malley needs to climb his way up in the ladder and start, fighting, these top 10s and top 5s. I think he will do. I think he will definitely take up another step up in competition. I think it'll be smart, though. It won't be, an outrageous one. It'll be someone like Frankie Edgar or Dominic Cruz, an older, aging fighter that he can beat. But nonetheless, he's exciting. And as you mentioned, when he gets you hurt, he puts you out. He doesn't let you recover. He's too quick. He's too sharp. His accuracy is incredible. The way how he picks his shots as well is ridiculous. He could do it all. He has the kicks, he has the punches, the combos, he has everything. We just need someone, a little wrestler called Frankie Edgar to test it.
Yeah, or Ricky Simone. There's so many options out there. I actually personally think that the best test for Sugar Sean O'Malley is Pedro Muniz. He actually got it. He got a first round off of Dominic Cruz, and Pedro Muniz
can take a shot.
Last two, but we're talking about two of the greatest fighters of all time. He lost two in his last two, and
Jose Aldo and Dominic Cruz. Yeah, wow.
One of the big things about Sugar Sean is he's got those fragile legs, and what is Pedro Muniz one of the best of? He's one of the best calf kickers. So, but here's the thing with Pedro as well. He's also the most hittable guy in the division. And Sugar Sean is the most accurate hitter in the division. So it's going to be a tremendous battle. Can Pedro Muniz finish Sugar Sean before Sugar Sean banks those rounds? And I think that would be a really fun fight to book, honestly. And I think it kind of makes sense. You have a guy in Sugar Sean on a winning streak, and Pedro, even though he's top 10, he's on a skid. I think that would be a really fun fight to book. But we have so many fights to go through on this card. We'll talk about the main event of the prelims now. Josh Emmett getting unanimous decision over Dan Ige. This fight was kind of what I was thinking it would go like. Josh Emmett simply had a big power edge in this one, and Dan Ige couldn't really use his wrestling much in this one because Josh Emmett is a phenomenal wrestler either, but you really wouldn't know it because Josh Emmett is kind of a Michael Chandler at heart, where even though he's got the wrestling, he really won't use it because he wants to entertain the fans with his big power. And that's what he did here. The first punch he lands in the entire fight, knocked down immediately. That's a different kind of power. Danny is one of the most durable guys in the division. And Josh Emmett with one punch put him on his butt. That's very impressive. And Josh Emmett had more volume than usual in this fight. And I think that definitely went a long way. And even though Danny did get one round off of him, I thought it was a very clear win for Josh Emmett.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a clear win as well. Definitely 2-1. And as you mentioned there, his first punch in that fight, just knocking Dan Ige down. And as you mentioned, Dan Ige can take a shot. He's one of the most durable guys that we have in this featherweight division. And Josh Emmett proving why he's known to being one of the hardest hitters in the 145-pound division. I'd love to see future matchups with Josh Emmett. He's on a good run now. He beat Shane Burgos. Now he's beat Dan Ige. I'd like a little bit of a step up, another step up as well. I'm thinking Yair Rodriguez next for Josh Emmett.
Man, the featherweight division is one of the most exciting divisions in the whole UFC. Honestly, you can just put a blindfold over your eyes and just pick a random name, and you'll probably have a fun fight on your hands. But the fight that I personally picked for him is the loser of Calvin Kattar versus Giga Chikadze, because Josh Emmett, I feel like he's at a spot where he really wants to get bigger names, because don't forget, Josh Emmett is over 35. He's 36 now. So I think it's kind of a now or never spot for Josh Emmett, especially at 145, to try to go on that title run. And even though the Kattar versus Chikadze fight, even though somebody's going to win that fight, the loser, I don't think they'll be in the worst spot. Both guys are such talented fighters that I think that Josh Emmett could benefit over a win, even over the loser of that fight. But yeah, featherweight is so much fun. And we'll move on to the best division in the entire sport, in my opinion, the bantamweight division. And in my opinion, the greatest fighter to ever grace that division, Dominic Cruz, defeated Pedro Muniz by unanimous decision. And as John Anik said it, this was vintage Cruz out there. In the first round, sure, he got rocked, and he didn't even know it. That's how bad he got rocked. But come those last two rounds, Pedro Muniz, as I said, the most hittable guy in the division. honestly did not get his calf kicks going as much as I thought he would. So Dominic Cruz was moving as well as he ever did, and he was tagging Pedro. And this was a really fun fight, and that's why I got the fight of the night. And usually on a card where there's this many finishes, the UFC will just not give out a fight of the night. But they gave out 8 bonuses on this card, and this was the fight of the night. That shows you just how good this fight was. And yeah, Dominic Cruz, in my opinion, uh, definitely can get in the title mix pretty soon if he keeps on putting performances on like this. Because I kind of thought this version of Dominic Cruz was going to be left in the past, but we saw him make a comeback here, and I'm very impressed with what he did out there.
Yeah, I was impressed too, and I feel like this shows us a glimmer of hope as well for Dominic Cruz that he maybe could take up and get another run at the title. Nothing would please me more to see maybe Dominic Cruz lift that belt one more time. I'd love to see it happen. Yeah, as you mentioned, one of the legends inside bantamweight division, if not one of the greatest, if the greatest in the bantamweight division. There's definitely some names up there that he's definitely contending with. But Dominic Cruz looked his old self in this fight, and it looked phenomenal to see him watch and just see him flow. When Dominic Cruz is in a flowing state, I feel like nobody can beat him. When he's flowing, getting it all together, I feel like you can't touch him. He's touching you, and you just can't seem to get anywhere near him. Because Dominic Cruz goes in, and then that's it. He's out. You throw, and he's gone. He's either 5 yards to the left, he skips, and he's gone. Dominic Cruz is probably the best fighter I've ever seen in mixed martial arts getting in and out. His footwork, his movement is just second to none. I've never seen anything like it. Hit like what's that saying from Muhammad Ali?
Hit like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
There we go. That's the one. That's what Dominic Cruz does to perfection. He's mastered the skill of that, and he
like
definitely
a butterfly, sting like a bee.
There we go. That's the one. He's mastered that saying right there, and he's done it to perfection in this fight. And as you mentioned, some adversity in the first round, but we heard him in the post fight interview. He said, "I thought I slipped." So that tells you where I was at, which was incredible because he did get caught clean. He did get dropped, and I was also happy to see him recover and go on to win, because if we did see that Henry Cejudo fight go a little bit longer, I'm just saying it might have been a different story, but I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, well, we'll never know. Henry Cejudo says he's open to that rematch, and we're seeing Henry post pictures with Davidson Figueiredo.
He's coming back. He's coming back.
He's in that training room way too much to not be looking to be an active fighter at this point. So, I'm very pumped for that Henry Cejudo comeback, hopefully in 2022. And we'll move on.
He's a big star. He is a big star. If Cejudo could definitely, main event a pay per view, he's big star.
Done it. He's already done it against Marlon Moraes. I think he's a dependable guy. And
100%.
If you want to talk about dependable, Tai Tuivasa post fight celebrations are always dependable to be fun. Tai Tuivasa, I honestly did not expect him to win this fight because Augusto Sakai, except for the fact that his chin is not the greatest, is kind of tailor-made to beat Tai Tuivasa, in my opinion. But I feel like Augusto really had an off night here, and he kind of feared the Tuivasa power. It's very clear. He kept on backing up. And Tai Tuivasa's never looked better. His technique is getting better. I feel like he's kind of a guy that had to learn on the job. And he was fighting horrible competition. Let's be honest. When he started the UFC, he was beating guys like Cheryl Asker, guys who just really low level guys. And now this is Augusto Sakai, who is number 11 heading into this, and he steamrolls him. He dominates the first round. Come the second round, he lands the clean shots, and Sakai just folds back like a lawn chair, and he's completely out. That's so impressive from Tai Tuivasa. And Tai Tuivasa is now on a 4-fight KO streak. That's very hard to do in the UFC, especially in the heavyweight division, where one punch can change it all. So Tai Tuivasa's never looked better. He's in a really great spot here where I think the UFC will keep on featuring him on these big pay-per-view cards. And yeah, he's always a good time. Nothing but good things to say about his performance here.
Yeah, you mentioned there that Tattoo had to learn on the job, and that's because he never had an amateur career. He just went straight into the pros and started banging it out. He had kickboxing experience. He did a little bit of kickboxing fights back and then, but he never had an amateur MMA career. As you mentioned, he had to learn on the job, and he had to fight these bad guys. And then now, when he got to the good guys, and when he wasn't ready, he just wasn't ready, and he got beat. But now, I feel like if he came up against them same guys, and where he is right now, I feel like it could be a different story. I feel like he would beat JDS, and he would be who else did he lose to?
He lost to Blago. Even I don't know if he beat Blago. Blago is a really good wrestler, but yeah, Vassas certainly made improvements. There was a point in Ty's career where I actually picked Stefan Struve to beat him, and Stefan Struve, really bad chin, but decent ground game. And yeah, it appears Tachi Ivasa is really starting to put it all together, and he's on a tremendous run here. And
he's in a good position as well, and he's got some phenomenal matches in front of him, and possibly one I'd love to see him face next is one we're about to talk about later.
Ooh, that's interesting. My personal pick is Marcin Tybura, but
mine was Chris Daukaus.
Wow, I think that one might be even better, honestly. But
yeah.
We'll move on to somebody else who is on a KO streak. Somebody who just got booked to fight Alex.
Oh, man.
Cannot wait for that one. We're not seeing a final bell on that one, I guarantee it. And he knocked out Jordan Wright. He knocked him out in the first round very early, as we both predicted. We both know Jordan Wright can't eat a punch. And he's such goodness gracious, the cans he fought. It's just so disgraceful that somebody actually made it to the UFC doing that. And Bruno Silva treated him like he should have. But I gave Jordan Wright his credit here. He actually was giving Bruno a tough fight early, landing those knees in the clinch. I was thinking, man, maybe Jordan Wright is going to give Bruno a tough fight than I thought. But one punch, and Jordan Wright is on wobbly legs, and that ground pound was vicious. And Bruno closed out the show, as he's done in his first two UFC outings. He's on a tremendous streak, and now he got maybe one of the biggest step-ups in competition in UFC history. Jordan Wright to Alex Bejeda is insane, honestly. But yeah, that's what happens when you're in the UFC. You got to fight the best. Bruno Silva is fighting the very best. And
but a fight that I see him having success in against Alex Pereira. This is mixed martial arts striking. This could go any way, but yeah, that's a fantastic fight that I can't wait to speak about. But we got a long time for that to speak. I think that's March 12th.
I don't have the exact date, but I'm pretty sure it's around that time.
Yeah, but yeah,
I have to commend Bruno Silva's activity. This guy fights every 3 months, it seems. So yeah, Bruno Silva, if he gets that win, we're talking rank guys after that, but I don't think he will.
I mean, I feel like Pereira needs to get the step up of competition quick, because he's not got long left in his career, because he's old. I think he's 36, 35, so he needs to get to the title very quick if he wants to face Izzy.
100%. And we'll move on to somebody else who got a finish on the card in the first round. Andre Muniz got the first round armbar on Eric Anders. This is the same exact submission he used to beat Chakra. I don't know why people were picking Eric Anders out here. Andre Muniz, you can bet on him to submit pretty much anybody if he goes out there and breaks Jacare Souza's arm. That's what he did out here. He pretty much bullied Eric Anders down the ground and got that arm bar. And Eric Anders had never been submitted before this, and Andre Muniz went out and did. Andre Muniz is the most dangerous guy on the ground in this division, if you ask me. So I think a fight down the line that just popped in my head to watch would be Muniz versus Hamzat Chimaev. That would be a thrill to watch, quite honestly. But yeah, Andre Muniz is on a great run here. I believe he was ranked for a little bit, but he got kicked out by somebody. But let's give Andre Muniz a ranked opponent. I say, why not give him a guy on the outskirts of the top 10, a guy in a similar spot as him. I say put him there with an Arsadine Imavov.
I like that. That's a great matchup. But talk about this fight. I think when we were talking about in previous episodes, I said it's a complete mismatch. I didn't want to see this fight go down. It's because Andre Muniz fought Jacare Souza, submitted him. I thought Eric Anders was not a forward push for Muniz to go to the ranked guys. I thought Muniz and Eric Anders were on a different trajectory. I see Muniz heading towards that title and towards them ranked guys, and I saw Eric Anders just being in the middle of the division, not being able to beat these good guys, but not beating these lower level guys, just being stuck in the middle. I just didn't want to see this fight go down. I knew the winner of this fight going into this fight, and Andre Muniz proved me right. And submission armbar once again, phenomenal. This guy's incredible. If he gets a hold of your limbs, you better get out of there quick.
100%. We'll move on to Erin Blanchfield's domination of Miranda Merrick. We on the show, we wrote off Erin Blanchfield. We just said she was too young. This might have been too much too quick. But we have to remember Miranda is actually pretty young herself. And Erin Blanchfield won an Eddie Bravo Invitational. She's an absolute monster on the ground. And what's crazy is her corner actually said, we need to strike more. So Erin Blanchfield is a phenomenal fighter at just 22 years of age. And I think she's 100% going to find herself in a title shot in the next couple of years. And it might even be quicker than that if she dominates her opponents in that manner again, because she got multiple 10-8 rounds in this fight. And we thought Miranda was definitely going to win the fight, but that wasn't the case. Erin Blanchfield looked as good as you can look out there.
Yeah, we were talking about this, and Erin Blanchfield was meant to take on Macy Barber, and then Miranda Maverick stepped in for this fight. And if I'm Macy Barber, I'm wanting nothing to do with Erin Blanchfield right now, because the same thing will happen to what happens to Miranda Maverick.
100%. Erin Blanchfield is already one of the best grapplers in this division. You know what's even crazier? She doesn't even have 10 pro fights. This is her second UFC fight, and she fought somebody that was previously ranked before this. And I honestly think she's already going to start fighting ranked opponents, and she's not that far away from a title shot. I think, honestly, the next step for her would be somebody like Montana De La Rosa.
Yeah, I like that. I always feel like, in the women's flyweight division or the women's divisions, in particular, you have to face a veteran to get to the top. Even we've seen it in heavyweight divisions as well. I feel like everyone in that flyweight division has to get past Roxanne Modafferi to get to the top. And I feel like if Roxanne Modafferi is facing Casey O'Neill, though, and she's retiring that day as well, so that won't happen.
Yeah, now those contenders can rest easy knowing they don't have that test ahead of them. But,
so maybe a Montana De La Rosa, that's a smart matchup.
We'll move on to Ryan Hall's unanimous decision win over Darrick Minner. Ryan Hall is a phenomenal grappler. We already knew that heading into this, but I didn't know Darrick Minner would have this big of an edge on the feet. Goodness gracious, Darrick Minner was tagging Ryan Hall with every punch that he landed, it seemed, on the feet. But Ryan Hall did Ryan Hall things, and he was using those Granby rolls, just got him to the ground, and yeah, very
drops to his back.
Yeah, even DC, all the commentators couldn't even tell you what's going on. That's how advanced Ryan Hall's grappling is. Bronze medal in the ADC, of course. This guy's just on a different level, and I have to give all the respect in the world to Darrick Minner for somehow not getting submitted. Darrick Minner, even though he's a grappler himself, has been submitted several times, and somehow the guy did not get submitted in this spot. It's very wild that he didn't get submitted, but Ryan Hall looked really impressive out there, and he faced some serious adversity in this fight, and he passed the test this time. Some people thought he would get knocked out here, but he didn't, and he went through the storm, but he got it done.
As you mentioned there, Darrick Minner not getting submitted by probably the best grappler he's fought and in his career. And he's been submitted previously. So if I'm Darrick Minner, this is a win. I'm taking this down as a win. I'm probably gaining confidence out of this. Even though it is a loss and you did get 30-27 on two scorecards, I'm taking this as a win. I'm gaining some confidence and definitely taking it into the next fight and being more comfortable with my grappling defense, because you held your own against Ryan Hall. But as you mentioned, Ryan Hall just doing the Ryan Hall things and getting the job done. It was phenomenal. Just watching him roll about, and I can't even explain what he done. Just doing Ryan Hall things. It was incredible.
Yeah, he's always a thriller watching. So is Tony Kelly. He went out there, fought Randy Costa, and man, the big critique of Randy Costa going into this fight is he's such a threat in that first round. But come the second round, he's pretty much done. And that was not the case in this fight. He tried to pace himself in the first round, and he was not a threat. Tony Kelly bullied him, made him walk backwards, and even though he paced himself, he still got tired. And come the second round, Tony Kelly just finds that TKO finish and breaks Randy Costa. And this is a spot where Randy Costa really needs to do some more self reflection. I don't know what he's doing strength and conditioning wise, but probably needs to step it up. And Tony Kelly is better than I thought he was, quite honestly. Tony Kelly, we saw how good he is on the ground against Ali Al Kwasi, and in this fight, his output was insane. His pressure was really good, and he found that finish against a very talented striker.
Yeah, as you mentioned that, I thought Randy Costa was going to win this fight heading into this one. Even though that loss to on Adrian Yanez, he looked good. He still looked good in that loss, and I thought that was a definitely a confidence booster for Costa. Even though he didn't get his hand raised, and I feel like in this one he's going to go back to the win column and get it done. I feel like he was going to get the knockout, but as you mentioned, round one and round two, Costa is a completely different fighter. The same with Michael Chandler. Round one, round two is completely different. And I feel like we've got the same situation here. As you mentioned, he tried to pace himself, but he still got tired. And I feel like the pressure of Tony Kelly and backing up Costa just eventually broke Costa in this one.
Yeah, I don't think Costa has the kind of championship heart that's necessary to compete at the highest level. But man, I think he's always going to put on entertaining fights, win or lose. And the same can be said for Jillian Robertson. Jillian Robertson is the most accomplished finisher in the history of the women's flyweight division, and she got it done pretty easily here. This was my pick, first round submission for Jillian Robertson. We know how bad Priscilla Cachoeira is on the ground. You just have to see that Valentina fight. Just really nothing off of her back. And yeah, she's mainly just a striker, hopes to gas out her opponents and find the finish. And even though Jalen Robertson's not the best striker, losing the fight on feet actually, all she needed was one takedown, and Priscilla Cachoeira, just a very poor grappler, gave up her back, got submitted, and we knew it was over when she started gouging those eyes. We knew that it was deep, and she either had to tap or nap, and she chose to tap, and Jalen Robertson got yet another submission on the record.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if Dana White is probably looked at this and probably thinking that we can't have that inside the UFC. They probably keep her on, but man, she's probably got a hair chance of just staying inside the UFC. It was bad. It was not once, it was twice. It was terrible.
Yeah,
You don't want to see that. She was losing the fight, and she tried to find a way to just to stand her back up, and it was ridiculous. And then credit to Jillian Robertson for not even calling it out. She's gracious.
yeah.
She's incredible.
We actually have a president for this. Li Jingliang, when he fought Jake Matthews, stuck in a deep guillotine, gouges the eyes, and that's actually what got him out of the guillotine. That was actually a worse instance because it actually caused Jake Matthews not to get his submission win. And Jake Matthews actually had to wear glasses after that. That's how awful.
Wow.
That's how awful the aftermath was. And as we saw, Li Jingliang still on the roster, so I feel like the UFC kind of just gives you a slap on the wrist for that. So yeah, very
Definitely can't
unfortunate.
happen again, though.
I think Priscilla Cachoeira is a really low level fighter, and maybe with another loss she gets cut. But yeah, not the best look. But you know what was a good look? Derrick Lewis bouncing back after his title fight loss to Sarragon, and he goes out there as an underdog. I don't know how this guy's an underdog yet again, when in the same year he knocks out Curtis Blades as a plus 300 whatever underdog, and now he's an underdog to Chris Daukaus. I didn't agree with it at all. We didn't do a previous show, but if we did a previous show, I would tell you to bet Derrick Lewis by knockout because that's what he does. He's the KO king, and with this knockout of Chris Daukaus in the first round, he is now at the top of the mountain when it comes to UFC knockouts. He surpasses Vitor Belfort and Matt Brown, and he did it in spectacular fashion. Chris Daukaus was having the higher volume earlier in the fight, but it was very clear that with every punch that Derrick Lewis landed, it just had bigger impact, kind of like the Rob Font versus Jose Aldo fight in a way. And yeah, just one bomb and Chris Daukaus went down. and I kind of felt like people were overrating Chris Daukaus. Yeah, I feel like it was too much too early for Chris Daukaus here. Just 1 month ago, he was fighting Parker Porter of all people. So, I mean, a year ago he was fighting Parker Porter of all people. So, I feel like it was a little too much for Chris Daukaus. And Derrick Lewis went out there and it was very impressive. And this is an instance where Derrick Lewis didn't need to really go through much adversity to get the win. Usually, he waits until his opponents get tired or whatever, and then he finds the mark. And yeah, but this time around, just did it very quickly and really didn't take much damage. And I think he's in a position where if Cyril Gahn cannot get to the U.S. because of a travel ban or whatever, he could get that Francis Ngannou fight. So yeah, crazier things have happened. I also think he's in a position where he can get the Stipe Miocic fight because unless Stipe wants to wait till December, most likely, because I think John Jones gets the winner of Ngannou Gone in July. So unless Stipe wants to win, I think wait, he's probably gonna have to fight Derrick.
Yeah, I agree with you. And in this fight, as you mentioned there, a year ago he was fighting Parker Porter, and now he's fighting, the Black Beast, Derrick Lewis, who's ranked what, number two, number three in the world. It's
Yeah,
definitely too soon, too quick for Chris Daukaus. But this is, I feel like, is a blessing in disguise. The way it happened, though, it probably won't feel good for him. He got starched in 3 minutes and 33 seconds, and he got put out really bad. And who doesn't get put out by Derrick Lewis? This guy hits like an absolute truck. It's ridiculous. He beat, Parker, Nascimento, Alexei Oleinik, and Shamil, guys he's meant to beat. And then he came up against Derrick Lewis, and he was the favorite. That shows how many people, thought he was going to win this fight. He was the favorite against Derrick Lewis, who challenged him for a title in his last fight. And Derrick Lewis just shut off them haters. The first round, Derrick Lewis, first round, Michael Chandler. It's just guys you don't want to fight.
yeah, Derrick Lewis. When he smells blood, it's I would say 9 times out of 10 it's over, man. Derrick Lewis is so scary, and Chris
Yeah.
Dawkins has a legitimate heavyweight power, and Derrick Lewis made it look like it wasn't much, honestly. And yeah, it's a really terrifying thing when Derrick Lewis is looking to knock you out. That's what he did out there. It even put fear into the heart of Francis Ngannou. That shows you
And the
what
thing
he.
is, Derrick Lewis was staying patient for about 3 minutes of this fight, and then just out of nowhere, just one switch. That's it. It's over.
Yeah, one
That's all
switch.
it takes for Lewis. It's
Yeah,
just a little blitz, and that's it. It's done.
that's why he's the KO king. And yeah, really impressive performance by Derrick Lewis. He kind of saved his 2021 because, man, that was a terrible ending for him in the Silva fight. He looked terrible out there. Even in the knockout, he kind of had a loser's face out there. It felt like the pressure was too much. And this time, it's a complete opposite. Not only is he not in his hometown, he's in an empty arena pretty much. And yeah, that kind of made for a good fight for Derrick Lewis. And he really impressed me out there. Somebody else who impressed me on this card was Bilal Muhammad. He has the most dominant performance of anybody over ever over Stephen Thompson. Stephen Thompson was once definitely one of the best welterweights in the world. I think that time is maybe over now, quite honestly. He's now at that, is he 38, 39 now at this point?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
at that point where Stephen Thompson's reflexes are not what they once were. But I don't. He used to have really good takedown defense, but I don't know what happened to it. In the Gilbert Burns fight, Gilbert was able to get those takedowns and hold them down. And Bilal Muhammad works as an analyst, so you have to be crazy if you don't think Bilal Muhammad put his analyst hat on and watched that Gilbert Burns fight and says, "I can do the same." I didn't think Bilal Muhammad had the kind of explosivity and the strength of Gilbert Burns to be able to do the same thing, but it appears that he does. And he went out there and got those takedowns on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and he did it better than Gilbert did. And Gilbert, he actually got knocked down in that second round with a wheel kick, but Bilal Muhammad really did not take much damage here and got some serious ground and pound going in that first round. I actually thought the ref was going to stop it in the first round because he was getting so much ground and pound going. And in those second and third rounds, it was just more of the same, complete domination. Bilal Muhammad is this is the win I need to see from Bilal Muhammad to say that this guy really is in that top 5 mix. Because for a
He
while
is
there,
now.
let's be honest, he was fighting those guys. He was fighting a lot of unranked guys. He was fighting Leaning Good, Takashi Sato, uh, names like that are way out of the top 15. And that shows you that he's a real fighter. He's not one of those guys that's just going to wait for a ranked guy. He got the win streak going, and now he beat the number 5, once the number 5 fighter in the world, Stephen Thompson, former title challenger, went to a draw with the champion once, and he dominated him. I think Bilal Muhammad is in a wonderful spot here. I think the next fight for Bilal is a fight where the winner would 100% get like a top 3 guy, and I think that guy is Sean Brady.
Oh man, that's a great fight. And as you mentioned there, Bilal Muhammad is now ranked number 5 in the world. He's definitely put himself on the map with this win against Stephen Thompson. As you mentioned, you listen to his competition there. You know, he fought to a draw against a champion that I don't even want to name because I don't want to bring him up because what happened? I
Yeah,
don't know who that man was. I don't know
let's
who he
not
was
recap
back
it.
then.
We're not recapping on that show. That's how sad that was. We're not even going to talk about it. We're not going to say the names.
Yeah, but Bilal Muhammad winning 30-25 on one judge's scorecard, that's 2 10-8. That's incredible. Yeah, that just shows you how dominant he was in this fight and how good I felt like Gilbert Burns put the blueprint out how to beat Stephen Thompson, and then Bilal Muhammad just 5 times it. He just made it look even better. He put on a better performance than Gilbert Burns. Never looked in trouble, as you mentioned. Looked comfortable throughout the whole 15 minutes and put on a fantastic display. And as you mentioned, I feel like his analyst head came into play and he just picked him apart fantastically. And it was just a great watch. And ranked number 5 in the world now. It's a big fight next for him. I feel like it's a really big one.
Yeah, if it's not Sean Brady, he's actually talking back and forth with Hamza Chimaev on Twitter, and it appears like even though multiple names have said I will fight Hamza Chimaev, those fights don't get booked for whatever reason. So I don't know what's I really don't know what the truth is, but Bilal Muhammad is a guy that has shown in the past that he'll fight pretty much anybody, even if there's no real benefit to it. He just wants to get more names onto his streak, and he's on a wonderful streak. And somebody else that's on a wonderful streak is Amanda Lemos. Did I think she won this fight? Probably not. Angela Hill, the start of her career is kind of she's lost these close split decisions, and most of them I truly believe she won. Especially the Claudia Gadelha fight. The Michelle Watterson fight was completely even. You could have scored 10-10 rounds if you wanted to in that
I
fight.
would love, I would love to know Angela Hill's record. What would it be if she won them split decisions? It'd be
Yeah, I
crazy.
believe it was something like really good. It was something really good, but I don't know the exact numbers, but Angela Hill she was disrespected by a ton of people coming to this one. I saw a lot of people betting Lemos by KO. And I was thinking Angela Hill has no history of a bad chin whatsoever. And if you want to talk about Amanda Lemos' resume heading into this one, we're talking about Lavinia Souza, who I think the weight cut for her is terrible, and her chin is she got racked by Reina Marcos for goodness sake. So that was kind of a gamey for Lemos. And then she fought Montserrat Conejo, who is a really good grappler, but terrible striking defense. Will take all the punches necessary to close the distance and cannot eat those shots. So from those two to Angela Hill, it's a really big gap in terms of striking ability, and Angela Hill showed it out there. Even though she got dropped by that front kick in the first round, Lynch is just one of those rare fighters in the female division that are super aggressive and can get finishes on a consistent basis. And I thought the fight was over there, but Angela Hill showed once again that she has a fighting spirit. And Lemos very obviously was tired, and Angela Hill put a pace on her that made her uncomfortable. In my opinion, she did enough to win uh, the second round. And the third round was a little close because, of course, Lemos tagged her with the front kick once again. But Angela Hill landed that spinning elbow, and I think that was the difference maker here. And I thought Angela did enough to win. But this was a phenomenal fight. Honestly, if you want to talk about best female fights of the year, I think this is like top 3 easily.
Yeah, Angela Hill is literally the queen of being in these sort of fights. She's always in an entertaining fight. She never disappoints. But the one thing is she never does that, that sort of enough to get that, get that nod on the judges' scorecards. She's always made it competitive. She's never made it like a standout win that she definitely got the win. And that's maybe something that she needs to improve on, maybe work on is maybe putting, in the judges' eyes, maybe that she definitely got the win. And I'd love to see Angela Hill, get a few runs and maybe, go up in the division. She's a fantastic fighter. Her Muay Thai is beautiful. And we saw it in the Luma Lukbumi fight. She outstriked Luma Lukbumi, which is incredible. And Angela Hill is a perfectionist when it comes to striking. And Amanda Lemos just did brilliant in this fight. She done well. It was a very close fight. It could have went either way. And Angela Hill, yet again, falling on another split decision. You just got to feel sorry for her at this point, honestly.
Yeah, even Dana White said she had done enough to win the fight, but yeah, I hope she doesn't take much of a drop in the rankings after this. Yeah, tough loss for Angela. I was kind of expecting it in a way when I started hearing those judges scored for lay motion. Yeah, sad, and also sad to see Rafael Sensao. He's now 39. He got straight up knocked out by Ricky Simone, and this is kind of uncharacteristic of Rafael Sensao, especially in his better days. By the way, Rafael Sensao does not get the credit he deserves. Wins over Rob Font, TJ Dillashaw, and one name is slipping my mind here. Rob Font, TJ Dillashaw, and Aljamain Sterling. This guy has super high quality wins, but age catches up to everybody, and especially at 135 pounds, where speed kills. And Ricky Simone was the young guy, had the quicker hands, and Rafael Assunção got straight up knocked out. I actually had money on this fight going to decision, so yeah, Rafael Assunção getting knocked out here was tough to watch here. I think retirement is not too far away from him, but if you want to do the Frank Yeager fight for Rafael Assunção, I don't mind it. He's actually still ranked. You could also do the Frank Yeager fight for Ricky Simone. Ricky Simone, by the way, in my opinion, has been in a really tough spot because we know Bantamweight is super stacked, and it's very hard to get ranked in that division. And he was like 3 fights ago, he was having a razor close fight with Rob Font, and Rob Font is now in the top five. So I feel like Ricky Simone is his ranking kind of doesn't tell the story of how good he is, and he showed it out there against Assunção, who is a bantamweight legend.
I think you pitched it perfectly there for Sansao. Was maybe a next fight for him is the last fight. Doing what Roxanne's doing. The last fight is the retirement fight, and seeing it off, and maybe a fight. Against Frankie Edgar. You still got Uriah Faber out there too, but I don't know what's happening with Uriah Faber at the moment. It's I'm not sure, but that could definitely be a fight. Sensao just needs. He needs to hang it up, and I think it's time for him. His time has come. As you mentioned, he's beat some incredible guys. We're talking about Aljamain Sterling, TJ Dillashaw. He's been there and he's done it. And unfortunately, as you mentioned, age does catch up to you. And Ricky Simon is the younger of the two. He got the job done and cracked him on that chin, and that was it. It was game over. Just if you're a Sensei, if you're coming up against these younger bucks, man, it's he's not in for a good night. I feel like he's at the tail end of his career now, and it's pretty much his career over. But I'd like to see him have one more fight, just to maybe get a win and hang it up. That would be nice.
Yeah, you really don't want to see a guy like a Sensei take too much damage. In his last fight, he was on the receiving end of one of the most brutal KOs in the history of this division against Cody Garbrandt. And yeah, Assunção is not the fighter he once was. I feel like if this was prime Assunção, he definitely wins the fight, but it's not the case here. My pick was wrong, and my next pick was actually right. Mateusz Gamrot was a 2-1 favorite against Diego Ferreira, and he definitely looked like it out there. Man, this is such a fun fight to watch. Diego Ferreira, his scrambles are just so much fun to watch. He's one of the few grapplers where you really get out of your chair when certain positions get switched. Because man, Diego Ferreira really is a threat down there. But the thing with Mateusz Gamrot, he's such an excellent wrestler and an excellent striker as well. So Mateusz Gamrot will give promise to pretty much everybody in this division. I think Mateusz Gamrot could even have a competitive fight with the current champion. That's how highly I think of him. In fact, I think we're looking at a 20-0 fighter here because his one loss is a split decision to Guram Kutateladze that even Guram thought that he had lost. So I think the world of Mateusz Gamrot. Mateusz is going to have a tough fight. Is going to have a tough time getting these higher ranked guys to pick him out because we know how lightweight works. These guys only want to the high ranked guys only want to fight each other. They never want to accept a fight from a low ranked guy. But yeah, Mateusz Gamrot is on the rise. He's one of the best fighters out of American top team. He trains regularly with both Jorge Masvidal and Dustin Poirier, and it's very clear to me that he's improving and he's a threat everywhere. And he finished Diego Ferreira with a knee to the body in that second round. He simply broke Diego Ferreira and got the finish here, and he's on a tremendous run.
Well, you mentioned there that the finish there, it was a bit of a weird ending. Not too many people know what happened, but yeah, as you mentioned, the knee to the body, perfectly legal, a brilliant shot, picked it perfectly, and Diego Ferreira, his rib must have cracked or something. I'm not too sure what happened. I don't know whether he's released the scan or anything like that. But it definitely felt like he wanted no more. It was no mass for Diego Ferreira, who was a good challenge for Gamrot in this one. A good grappler, could definitely submit Gamrot heading into this one. That's what I thought, the possibilities that could have happened. And Gamrot, as you mentioned, in his own right, is a fantastic grappler, fantastic wrestler, and his scrambles are always good and always fun to watch. And what is better than that? His striking. His striking is phenomenal. This guy can do it all. He's just well-rounded. And as you mentioned, he could probably give the champion a very, very good fight. And we don't want to rush him, though. We want to take his time because I feel like if we take his time and he gets to the title, I feel like he could definitely win it. But by the time he gets to the title, there'll be someone else at the top of the throne. So,
oh yeah, for sure. I think Islam Makhachev would probably be the guy he meets up there. But I think the next fight step for Mateusz Gamrot is a guy who's really not known for turning down fights. Brad Riddell.
Could you imagine that fight though? Poland versus Russia in Russia. Oh my god!
Wow. Fantastic. Mateusz Gamrot versus Brad Riddell would be an absolute banger. I feel like that would be a fight where we definitely see Gamrot's striking get tested. That would be the best striker that Gamrot's ever fought in his career. So that would be the rightful test next for Gamrot.
100%. Well, we're moving on to the next fight, and Cub Swanson, Killer Cub, getting it done against Darren Elkins, which caught me off guard because we've seen Darren Elkins in the past taking an absolute beating, and being able to come back and his heart, his durability is incredible, but Cub Swanson just didn't let him breathe. He put the pressure on and eventually got the finish. And I think at one point he looked at the ref and he was like, "Ref, like, come on, this is over." And then the ref stopped in and got waved off. And I thought it was a good stoppage, a rightful stoppage. Darren Elkins has always took a beating in every single one of his fights. I swear to God, and he always managed to find a way to get to come back into the fight, but Cub Swanson just didn't let him get back into this fight. And it was such a good moment to see Killer Cub to get this done.
Yeah, in front of his family and his 3 kids as well. It was a really cool moment for Cub. Cub, honestly, has never looked better than he did in this fight. He had his hands very low and was just picking apart Darren Elkins. And this is the fight that we saw the true decline of Darren Elkins. Sure, Darren Elkins was once on a 5-fight skid, but Volkanovski was one of those losses, for goodness sake. So I was thinking Elkins can still take those shots. And by the way, in none of those losses was he getting finished. But it now appears to me that he just can't receive the damage like he once did. I knew this day would come where he just can't make those comebacks anymore because
his body don't let him.
His body's just quitting on him. His chin is gone, honestly. And Cub Swanson straight up punished him out there. He really had no respect for Darren Elkins' striking, because he knew that Darren Elkins was going to get hit. Darren Elkins, kind of the Homer Simpson of the UFC for a while. And yeah, looked terrible out there. Darren and Cub Swanson looked great. Darren Elkins, I honestly don't think we'll see 5 more fights in his career, honestly, because I think we're going to see more nasty knockouts from the opponents of Darren Elkins. So yeah, really sad to see. I knew this day would come. But really feel great for Cub Swanson because Cub Swanson is performing so well. Will he ever be in the title mix again? No, but he's gonna be in there so much so much fun matchups, and I think the next one should be Charles Jourdain.
There you go. There you have it. We're about to talk about him soon. So that would be a fantastic matchup, and what performance he put on as well. But we'll get to that as later down the line. But also, Jared Mershot, ladies and gentlemen, this guy is phenomenal. I love it. He had such a great 2021 after a really bad 2020, getting absolutely demolished by Hamzat Chimaev, and being able to go 3-0 in 2021. This could be like comeback career of the year. I don't know how to word that, but career comeback of the year. Jared Mershot, 3-0, and being able to put on the performance he did, and losing them 2 rounds too.
Yeah, Dustin Stolfus really impressed me in this fight. I kind of wasn't sure what kind of fighter Dustin is because he's shown ability to get it done on the feet and on the ground in the past. But in this fight, he had a very wrestle heavy approach, and Jill Mearshart, he's the most decorated finisher in the history of the middleweight division. And the middleweight division has been filled with killers like Vanderlei Silva, Dan Henderson, Anderson Silva. Those guys don't have as many finishes. Jill Mearshart. Jill Mearshart very rarely wins via decision, and you got to give credit to Dustin. In those first 2 rounds, he was avoiding the submission attempts from Joe Mearshart, but eventually it was just too much for Dustin, and he got caught in that rear naked choke, and it was over for him. And this is not uncharacteristic of Joe Mearshart. He's faced adversity before, and somehow he gets his opponent's necks in. So impressed by Joe Mearshart's comeback. He got knocked up by Ian Heinisch and Hamza Chimaev back to back, and now he submits his last 3 opponents in 2021. Uh, those wins were Makhmud Muradov, and who else was it? It was the name is completely gone from my mind, but it was a bold, high-level wrestler. Cannot remember his name, but this makes it 3 submissions in 2021 for Jill Mearshart, and definitely a nominee for Comeback Fight of the Year. We'll move on to Justin Tafa, who became the first heavyweight in UFC history to miss weight. That's just shameful, honestly. It didn't look. It honestly looked to me that the guy definitely could have made weight if he wanted to, but just honestly too lazy to. Quite honestly, let's be honest. And he fought Harry Hunsucker, who has never beaten an opponent with a winning record. I'll repeat that: never beaten a guy with more wins than losses. So Justin Tafa actually um has only one win over somewhat high level opponent as well in Juan Adams. So this is such a low level heavyweight fight, but I knew for a fact that Justin Tafa, when he would swing, that Hunsucker could not take the damage. And even though Hunsucker was doing well defensively, he actually blocked the finishing blow. It didn't matter because Tafa has that kind of power in his kicks. And Hunsucker went to sleep, and Tafa may have gotten a bonus had it not been for the weight miss. And hopefully he never does that again because that's an easy recipe to get cut by the UFC.
Yes, literally what you just said there. An easy recipe to miss the heavyweight limit. You're either not disciplined or you're lazy, as you mentioned. That's the same thing, really. And we're seeing it. He came in at 267, just a pound. He would have got an hour to run that off, and he could have done it. And as you mentioned, just laziness. But at least he's going down in history in the UFC for something, but something he's probably not proud of.
I guess. But yeah, terrible look out there. And he's not even the biggest heavyweight either. He's not Greg Hardy, which Greg Hardy's he's a
if Brock Lesnar made the heavyweight limit, you have no excuse.
Exactly. It appears to me that Tafa probably had too much of a good Thanksgiving over there or whatever. So yeah, just shame on Justin Tafa out here missing weight at the heavyweight limit. There's been some real gargantuans that have made that heavyweight limit.
Alistair Overeem.
Tafa makes those just looks like a dwarf compared to some of those guys like Bigfoot Silva. But we'll move on to Melissa Gatto's 3rd round TKO over Sajar Eubanks. You want to talk about nominees for year end awards? Melissa Gatto will be a nominee for most improved fight of the year. There was very little tape on Melissa Gatto before her Victoria Leonardo fight, and the very little tape we had, she barely even had the fundamentals down of strike. She was just somebody that would kind of pull guard, hope to get submissions, and she actually got one over Carol Hosa of all people. So to see her now getting two TKOs back to back, she broke Victoria Leonardo's arm, and then she gets a third round body kick KO against Jar Eubanks. That's so impressive, honestly, because Melissa Gatto was kind of a pure grappler, and now she's out here finishing people with striking. So that's very impressive. And Sajara, even though she's got one of the ugliest records in the whole UFC, she's still a very talented fighter. She has a win over Lauren Murphy of all people. So even though it's not somewhat of a high quality win, it kind of is in a way. But Gatto might just have to get a ranked opponent after this. She's looking so impressive out there. It's very obvious she's made big improvements. And Sajara also missed weight on this card too. I thought she had the weight cut down, but it appears Sajara could get cut as well for this because it's just a terrible look. She cannot make this weight class consistently, and when she fights at bantamweight, she gets out muscled in certain spots.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. As you mentioned, Eubanks is a good fighter. You know, she, as you mentioned, that winner over Laura Murphy, who challenged for a title against Shevchenko. But as you said, she didn't make weight. When she goes up to bantamweight, she gets out muscled. She's too small for the bantamweight division, but she's just not too big for the flyweight division. So she's in a weird position. She's in like a Kevin Lee sort of situation, but. As you mentioned, Gatto looked absolutely phenomenal in this fight, and that kick to the body, yeah, that was nasty. That was a phenomenal kick. She placed it perfectly, and you see that Eubanks wanted no more of Gatto. It was a phenomenal kick, perfectly placed as well, and you love to see it. And as you mentioned, a ranked fighter next for Gatto would do nicely.
Yeah, I believe that Gatto is definitely on the rise in this division, and somebody else that's on the rise in their division is Charles Jourdain. He fought Andre Ewell, who was moving up from bantamweight, and he didn't look undersized here, quite honestly. Andre Ewell's always been a big bantamweight, so when he moved up to featherweight, wasn't exactly outsized here, but he was definitely outgunned in terms of power. Charles Jourdain has ridiculous power. He knocked out Dooku Choi. He's gotten several knockdowns in most of his fights. He's about as battle tested as it gets, and he's also had a lot of tough first rounds. Gotten rocked in first round many times. And against Andre Ewell, he did not get rocked. In fact, he won every round. In the last two rounds were scored 10-8 by all three judges. So that shows you the kind of beating that Charles Jourdain put on Andre Ewell. Andre Ewell, it's always been the case for him. He gets worse as the fight goes on, most likely. And Charles Jourdain only picks up the pace the more the fight goes, and that's what happened here. I have no idea how Andre Ewell did not get finished in this fight because he took an insane amount of punishment from Charles Jourdain. Just look at those numbers: 137 significant strikes. He got beat up from head to toe, quite honestly here. And even though Charles Jourdain didn't get a finish here, I kind of feel like he had one of the best performances of the night here against Andre Ewell. He finished it off with a front kick to the stomach. He knocked him down. He went straight up beast mode in this fight, and I've never been more impressed with him.
Yeah, Charles Jourdain was definitely hyped for this fight, and he's put himself in a good situation next. Putting on a performance of his life, the best performance in his UFC career, 100%. And if you look at them the last 10 seconds of the fight, Charles Jourdain was just going ham, throwing everything. I think he threw a wheel spin kick, and then he threw this body kick, and it just reminded me of. Have you watched the film 300 when he kicks him down?
I have yet to do it, but I'm pretty sure I know about the Sparta kick. Yeah.
Yeah, he goes, "This is Sparta," and he does that kick. It was phenomenal. It was so great to watch. Charles Jourdain is just put on an absolute performance. The best performance I've seen in his UFC career so far, and he's put himself in such a great position to get a good matchup in the next one. I think him versus Cub Swanson, as you mentioned earlier in the show, is a phenomenal matchup.
Charles Jourdain's performance on this card was one of many. In fact, there was 10 finishes on this card. That's a very impressive feat. Only two other events in modern UFC history have had more finishes. That's how crazy this card was. And we'll move on to one of those finishes. Is Raquel's finish with a 10-finger choke against Meshi Siasan. The only reason I had a little bit of a lack of confidence in Raquel Pennington here was because this was at featherweight, Meshi Siasan's ultimate fighter weight, which she performed so well. But Meshi Siasan couldn't even make that weight. So that was definitely a concern there. It definitely appeared that Meshi Siasan's short notice uh, definitely hurt her in this spot, quite honestly. It appears that she wasn't fully ready. Raquel Pennington definitely was. She looked really impressive out there. Uh, and this was a barn burn of a fight. That first round was awesome. Both women got tagged big time. I thought Raquel would actually finish it with body shots. And the second round was more of the same, but eventually Raquel got dragged down to the floor, and Raquel snatched up that neck and got that finish. I'm very impressed with Raquel Pennington here. And I can't even remember the last time we saw a 10-figure choke in the UFC. So that shows you how diverse her submissions are.
Was there ever one? Is this the first?
Honestly, I can't remember the last one. It might have been before 2019. Quite honestly, that's how long it's been.
But yeah, as you mentioned, Pennington put a fantastic performance. And that first round, one of the best first rounds I've seen in mixed martial arts this year. Both women getting tags, both going out. It was quite a bar burner, high pace first round, and in that second round, that guillotine choke, or the 10-finger choke, should we call? She got the job done. Pennington putting on a little bit of a run as of late. What's that? 3 wins back to back now. So she's looking good.
Yeah, I believe so. I would like to see that. Maybe the Misha Tate rematch now kind of makes sense.
Misha Tate thinking about a move down to 125.
Oh yeah, she's also saying that. But who knows? Maybe if that doesn't work out, we could see that. Also, she turned down the Aspen Ladd fight out of concern that Aspen Ladd will miss the weight. So
And then Macy misses.
I'm sure that makes Aspen Ladd really angry because they've had so much heat over Twitter, and now they can't even settle it in the octagon from the looks of it. So yeah, unfortunate situation all around there. But what was a very fortunate situation for Dontel Mays was his finish over Josh Parisian. This is the most impressed I've been by Dontel Mays in his UFC run so far. Even in wins, he really doesn't look too impressive. It's very clear to me that he's of bottom of the barrel heavyweights. Let's be honest. And he was fighting one of his fellow bottom of the barrel heavyweights in Josh Parisian. So I was thinking that the winner probably gets cut here. And Dontel Mays, I actually thought Josh Parisian would be the better grappler, but as soon as Dontel got that first takedown and got Josh in that crucifix position, I was thinking Dontel probably gets a finish here, and he eventually did. What was it? The most entertaining fight? Not really, except for those groin strikes right to the face. I don't know what that was, but yeah, this was kind of what we expect from heavyweights. Once it gets to the first round, it gets to very slow pace, and thankfully we got a finish here.
Yeah, it was the wrestling that really made a difference for Dontel Mays in this one. He literally just controlled Josh Parisian for 15 minutes, and then he got on the mic and in the post-fight interview and called out Derrick Lewis and Chris Daukaus, and it blew my mind. I just thought, whoa. I love the optimism, but let's slow down a little bit. Let's get back to reality. That was...
Yeah, let's not act like Rocky Martinez didn't give you a tough fight.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was a good performance. He went to his wrestling, got the job done. Not the most exciting fight, but man, calling out Derrick Lewis and Chris Daukaus, that's a fight he does not want. But yes, yeah. I don't know what to really say. As you mentioned, heavyweights that are at the bottom of the division, and definitely a good win to see Dontel Mays just get back to the winning column, and using his wrestling as well. But yeah. Go to the first fight of the evening as well. It kind of set the pace. This did. We got a submission. Jordan Levitt getting a submission win over Matt Sells. Excuse me. He got the job done. Jordan, what's he called? The Monkey King Levitt. Then did the splits. This guy's entertaining. We had Taito Vasa do the shoey 1 week, and now we have Jordan Levitt doing the splits the other week.
Yeah, I'm convinced both guys are on UFC level talents because they have such huge holes in their respective weaknesses. Like Jordan Levitt's striking is atrocious, and Matt Sales' ground game is atrocious. So when these two met, it was truly a grappler versus striker matchup here, and that's what we saw out there. In mixed martial arts, more likely than not, the grappler is going to be the one coming out on top, and that's what happened here. As soon as he got those takedowns, Matt Sales' get up game was pretty much non-existent, and Jordan Levitt had his way with him, and Matt Sales, I don't know what he was doing, engaging in grappling, and eventually we see a reverse triangle from Jordan Levitt. And I, when's the last time that even happened? Like, where we actually get the submission finish? Honestly, I don't even know if it's ever happened. I know back in Bellator it happened with Jorge, but
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
such a rare submission. And quite honestly, I think this was a John Vellante, Maurice Green type of submission where I don't even know if it was actually in, but the guy was so gassed and so broken that he just tapped. Matt Sales ballooned up to 250, so it shows he's not the most disciplined guy out there. And when he went back then, he just looked truly awful in this fight. Looked truly awful out there. Looked like sluggish, looked slow. And Jordan Levitt, even though he's not the most talented fighter, he was good enough to take advantage of it and eventually find the finish.
Well, that's it. As you mentioned there, he was just good enough to get the job done. And Matt Sells, as you mentioned there, ballooned up all the way to 250. Was that when he wasn't fighting, or?
Yeah, remember he got twisted by Bryce Mitchell. That was in December of 2019, pre-pandemic, and this guy barely just made his return. So this guy definitely packed on those quarantine pounds,
Wow,
and
wow,
yeah.
wow!
So
That's phenomenal.
for him to eat, and he actually moved up a weight class. He was
Yeah.
actually a featherweight fighting Bryce Mitchell, and he moved up the weight class in this one. And Jordan Levitt not being the biggest lightweight, I thought this. I actually picked Matt Sales to win the fight because Jordan Levitt, I don't think he's the most durable, not the best striking defense, but yeah, the whole in Matt Sales' ground game was just so massive.
Well, yeah, that was it. That was the two events, the last two events of the year. We had one pay per view and then one fight night. Both cards definitely entertained us. It was phenomenal. But some things that will clip up or touch up on. We also had a really big event over here in the Europe. I don't know whether you tuned in or not, but it was KSW
I didn't.
65. We had
I didn't.
Magomed
I'm
Khalidov
actually not
versus.
tuned in. You can keep going.
Oh, we had Magomed Khalidov versus Soldic, and oh my god, that was such a great card. I loved it. Magomed Khalidov over here in Europe, he's one of the legends, especially over in Poland. He's beloved over there, over in Poland, and he got his lights put out, and it was like a handing of the torch sort of thing. Magomed handing the torch over to Soldic, who I believe we'll see in the UFC quite soon. He is now a double weight champion over in KSW. And them guys over there. When KSW put an event on, it just I don't know why it feels huge. It's big. They're in big arenas and there's loads of fans there. It just feels massive. That was definitely the event of that week for me because it was Europe. That was the same week as Lewis versus Daukaus. That was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. A big event over there at KSW. It was also on a Friday, so that was helpful. But yeah, I enjoyed it. And then obviously we have Kevin Lee signing with the UFC.
Yeah, Eagle FC is making big moves out here. They've signed Rashad Evans. They've signed Bigfoot Silva, and I believe they're only going to sign bigger names moving forward. Also signed Henry Cejudo and Felicia Spencer for commentary positions. Yeah, I believe that Eagle FC will be definitely probably will be in the fourth biggest promotion in the U.S. eventually, behind Bellator and the PFL. I think they're in a wonderful spot. I believe that Habib Nurmagomedov definitely has the funding to take this place very far, and if they keep on bringing in these big names, I think this will get a lot of attention. And that 165-pound division is probably the most interesting thing about the whole thing because we've seen so many welterweights and lightweights state that if they were to fight at that weight class, that they would be champion. So I feel like when Kevin Lee wins that I believe Kevin Lee probably wins that championship. unless they bring in a super high level fighter. I think Kevin Lee probably wins that belt. Um, yeah, I believe that we'll see a lot of fighters, of course, if they're paid well, which it appears that they are. I believe we'll see a lot of people chasing that belt.
Yeah, 100%. Then we have obviously the former title challenger, Claudia Gadelha hanging it up, and she's retired from MMA, so she's no longer fighting in the UFC.
Yeah, that was actually as a result of concussion symptoms after her Yan Xiaonan fight, where she took a serious beating in that fight. Yeah, she just her brain never necessarily recovered from that, and she just said that the price was too much to pay to get back in there. So we saw the same thing happen with Felicia Spencer. Just does not want to pay the price, and when you can make money through other ways, uh, it's smart to step away, especially if you don't have that kind of hunger to really get into the title mix. So smart move by her. She's got a really solid legacy. She was in that title mix for a very long time in the best women's division in the UFC. Uh, some of the best moments of her career are definitely the submission over Karolina Kowalkiewicz, if you remember that. Karolina had just fought Joanna Jędrzejczyk. It actually rocked her in that fight in New York. So she had a decent amount of hype going into that fight, and Claudia Gadelha just gets an easy rear naked choke over her and solidifies her spot. And she got that rematch against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and that's one of the best women's title fights of all time, where we saw Joanna Jędrzejczyk face some serious adversity, something that was unfamiliar to her in most of her title fights.
And then the last piece of news is former UFC champion, heavyweight champion JDS returning to face Kubrat Pulev in a boxing fight, a tried combat, which is a not good matchup for JDS. This is not good because I like boxing as well. I like watching boxing.
Yeah.
Kubrat Pulev is still a really, really good level heavyweight boxer. Yeah. He fought before the Frank Mir fight. He fought Anthony Joshua for the world championship. And 100%.
I think the only reason Triller can justify booking Pulev against these MMA legends is the fact that Pulev's 40. Pulev is an older guy, but he's still a super high level fighter. The Joshua fight was not long ago. He was very clearly the one of the best heavyweight boxers in the world, and he's fighting guys. Frank Mir, by the way, that was a huge mismatch. But the JDS fight, JDS, of course, one of the best boxers we've ever seen in the UFC. But JDS, let's be honest, he's over the hill. Does not have the hand speed he once had. I think he's going to get beat to the punch by Pulev quickly and get put out, and it's going to be another sad knockout like it was with Frank Mir.
Yeah, I agree. And Kubrat Pulev only has 2 losses in boxing. That's to Vladimir Klitschko and Anthony Joshua. He's only lost two of the best guys in boxing history. And it's just, man, it's one that I'm going to wake up to and I'm going to think, why did that happen?
Yeah, I think JDS will be thinking the same thing. Why did I sign the contract to fight one of the most ferocious boxers walking on the planet? JDS actually did meet with Eagle FC before he signed the contract with Triller. So it appears that Triller's still dishing out the big bucks. We're also going to see Vitor Belfort fighting in the triangle
Pat Dawson
on that card too. I honestly am not familiar with his opponent,
but
I hope it's not an unfavorable matchup because I don't really want to see Vitor getting knocked out at that age either.
It's a harder matchup than Holyfield, but it's one that I feel like he's still going to possess a little bit of trouble, but I feel like Vitor should come out on top. But, I feel like this is where we're going to see, where Vitor is in his career right now. He's 44 years old right now. So, so it's not good. But going back to Rashad Evans as well quickly, I don't want to see him come out of retirement. I want him to stay.
Rashad was out here losing to Sam Alvey in his last couple. Yes, it's a terrible look. If you listen to this podcast, you know what we think of Sam Alvey. It's.
I think we may have just lost Oscar there, but that pretty much wraps up the episode anyway. So thank you so much. I feel like This has been a fantastic conclusion to this episode. Even though if we did lose Oscar, I think his laptop or his computer might have just turned off. So you'll hear from us next week. So this has been a fantastic episode. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week where we'll talk about our MMA awards, fight of the year, event of the year, promotion of the year. We'll talk all about that good stuff. And last of all, have a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you all next year. Not next year, not yet.